Good afternoon.
Hi, Dion there, please.
This is Dion speaking.
Hey, Dion, it's Mackay Taggert calling from Global News. How are you?
Well, first of all, thank you for calling because I understand you're outside of the country.
I am, yep. I'm in Germany right now.
So that's pretty awesome of you to call me, so thank you.
Well, listen, my pleasure. And Rishma's filled me in a little bit about some of your concerns, and they're valid concerns. And so I wanted to reach out to you directly and just, I might not be able to give you the answer that you want, but I want to be able to give you any information that I can that helps explain our position.
Well, thank you for calling to respond to that. So I do have the gist of how you came to a decision. What I had requested were the names of the 6 people who decided on who out of the 35 they wanted to amplify their candidacy.
Sure. And I understand, your interest in that. We're not giving those names out for a couple of reasons. One, because there are some other campaigns of candidates who are not invited who are being quite vocal and quite aggressive in their anger and frustration and are going to quite extreme and kind of vulgar lengths to express their disapproval. And in terms of my staff, I don't want to put any of them individually in sort of the crossfire and put them in that position. The other reason too, and more importantly, when we came up with this method, because obviously 35 mayoral candidates is a lot. It's a big number. It's it's I would say impossible to coordinate a debate with that many people, especially when we only have an hour of time. And so what we wanted to do was, as an organization, decide who we thought should be invited, and we acted as an organization. So the same way that, in a Canadian legal system, a jury would make a decision, and then the jurors are not then publicized, their names aren't given out, and aren't questioned about their decisions. That jury speaks as one unit, and that was the attempt and the thinking behind convening an editorial board of 6 Global News journalists who are they cover a broad spectrum of beats that they cover and roles that they have, and they're reflective of the community of Toronto as well in a both age, gender, sexuality, race. We tried to be as sort of broad as possible. And that group came up with the names of the people who were invited, and that's how we found ourselves in the situation that we do.
Well, the first point is I certainly appreciate what you've said with regards to concern for wellness of individuals and their safety because of the some of the sentiments that you've been hearing, people lashing out and things like that. But using the example that you just used with a jury, we know that our juries are skewed and in fact are predominantly white and who are homeowners, and we've made a lot of references and comments about that in the news more recently over the last year concerning the discrimination that takes place as a result of a jury that is not reflective of the community. And so while this is not a trial, it is a mode of democracy. And the Canadian airwaves are being used to disseminate information that is misinformation. And so when I contacted Global News, I contacted you because I didn't hear anything about this going on. I just came across some information. So no one reached out to me. Nobody inquired of me. And I'm not even sure whether or not you reviewed my platform. Based on the information I've received from the first person I spoke with, it sounded like you didn't review my platform. And so then it's led me to...
Yes. Just so I'm clear, when did you register your candidacy?
The same day Jennifer Keesmaat did. And my platform was out before hers.
Yeah. And I've been on your Twitter page and also on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
And one of the main criteria that we looked at was candidates who had publicized a broad platform that seemed to address the issues that we hear from our audience that matter to the public in Toronto, and that's obviously a very broad swath of issues. But we wanted to make sure that we were giving an opportunity for candidates who had taken efforts to publicize a variety of viewpoints on a variety of issues, and some candidates and again, I wasn't in the room when the editorial board was convened, but the sort of the direction they were given was to find candidates who had taken time to publicize a broad platform.
Well, Mackay, you said that you saw my YouTube channel, which is the most inclusive way to give out information. You can see that it's about community wellness and inclusion. It is the broadest and most inclusive, progressive platform out there. And my platform was out before most people's platform was out there. It certainly was out before Jennifer Keesmaat's platform. And I didn't see John Tory's platform out at the time that I posted these things. And I certainly hear a lot of my ideas coming up when they have these photo ops and press conferences, and again, using the airwaves, and it's not real when they speak it because it's not their ideas. I'm okay with people borrowing or stealing my ideas as long as they're going to implement those ideas and know how to implement them. So I challenge you, if you're saying or suggesting that the people in the room thought that my platform wasn't broad, because it absolutely is broad, and it's the most inclusive platform out there. And when you're talking about the global audience, I'm a member in that audience, and there are a number of people that I have met and constituents that I've met that are members of that audience, and every single one of them have asked, this is amazing, why aren't we seeing you in the news? And then I have to go back to the same thing I raised with Rishma, the exclusion that takes place in society based on the establishment, and that's what we call media, the establishment promoting the status quo candidates that they want to be heard. Now, I'm not including Sarah Clemahenga or Saran Gebersali in that targeting. I'm specifically stating that John Tory and Jennifer Keesmaat are status quo candidates. They have never been part of any issues or struggles to advance and protect the public's rights prior to their employment with the City of Toronto. And that is problematic for someone who says that they want to implement policies and procedures that they have no idea about because they don't understand the population. They don't understand, if you will, the global audience. And so when people like me are excluded, then you're not representing a fair, broad scope. You're not portraying Toronto for what it is. The majority, as you know, with the population side, is a majority of people of color. And I get it that people are saying to Saran, I had this conversation with Saran the other day, they're using her as the token person of color. And this is problematic if your stage reflects less than what the actual population is that's out there. So I appreciate that you did give me a call back. The thing that I'm questioning, and it still remains a question, is even if you didn't want to publicize the 6 people, I always like to make sure I have my receipts. Because when I come, I always come with facts. I never want to speak out of turn and without information. And when I research things, I research it in-depthly to know that I'm providing the right information, right representation when I'm asked. So if I see, for example, this debate today, Arts Vote, it was set up for Jennifer Keesmaat. That was the grouping of people who organized. That history is there. But don't portray it as if it's independent and it's nonpartisan, because it's not. Most people are thinking your debate is set up for John Tory. And so the point...
Well, I don't think that's fair. I mean, I think...
No, I'm telling you what the public's perception is. That's what I'm telling you, right? And so when I'm saying...
Well, I talk to the public as well. I mean, I read all the emails and the tweets that we get from our audience, and your views are certainly reflected in some of the comments that we get. But there's also people who say, listen, I don't have a lot of time to listen to the people talk about this election. I am looking to the media to have an understanding of the main issues and the main candidates. And I think that we also, it's important to note that this campaign is still a month long. It
isn't really, brother. It isn't really a month long. The reality is that John Tory and Jennifer Keesmaat have been using the Canadian airwaves to advertise. And you guys have allowed them that. In fact, you've propped them up in doing that. And the Canadian airwaves are owned by the public. And so I believe, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, the public is relying on you to disseminate information to them because people are busy and they don't have enough time to look into it for themselves. And as a result, journalists and broadcasters have an obligation to rightly disseminate that information so that people can be rightly informed and so that democracy could be enacted. Right now, we have a perversion of what is democracy, and it's a frustrating perversion to observe. And that's why you have a large portion of the population who don't go out and vote and allow somebody like Doug Ford to become premier. So it's a frustration that the public has, because I can tell you today, John Tory and Jennifer Keesmaat did not do well in that debate at all. And this is what's missing. This is what's missing from the conversation, the inclusion aspect, the community wellness aspect. The fact of the matter is that society is not well. We're not thriving. We're not flourishing. It's 2018, and yet Toronto is what it is. We're not a world-class city, and that's what we should be, can become. And if you look at my platform again, you will see, wow, this is a proactive, progressive platform that provides solutions that we must mandate and we must enact in order for people to have the ability to live and thrive. So all I was asking was for the opportunity to be heard, as people should have the right to be heard. I can't speak to the other people who are not fighting for the public's rights in the way in which I'm fighting to make sure that they know that there is a candidate out there advocating on their behalf. You know, I often say to people when they ask me what I do, I said, I make sure your life is better. We're constantly working behind the scenes, fighting for people's rights. For what? Why are we constantly going to the people that we elect to get things done, and then they do it what is called incrementally when they can just do it? One thing that the Doug Ford government has shown us is that things can get done quickly. And so there's never going to be an excuse again why someone can't get things done based on his example. If he can implement a buck a beer, which is not essential to people's lives, then other things that are actually fundamental to people's lives can get implemented. And this is what we're talking about in government.
Listen, it's difficult for me to dispute anything you're saying, because everything you're saying is very, very true and very accurate. Our objective and our responsibility was to produce is to offer coverage of a campaign that is fulsome, and the debate is 1 hour of 8 weeks of coverage, and so I am committed to finding ways to give other candidates who have made serious efforts to, because some people, as we all know, just sign up because they want to see their name on a ballot, and then they do little or no work to campaign.
Yes.
And I don't think, from talking to you over the last 10 minutes, you seem like the person who's not doing that, and you actually are trying to communicate a platform. And we are going to make efforts through, we have radio, we have TV, we have online, to try and tap into other candidates than just these four who we've invited to the debate. So while the decision regarding our debate won't change, what I will tell you is that, and I will send you as soon as I'm back in Canada tomorrow, I'll send you my direct contact information. I oversee our editorial team at Global, and if there is anything that you have throughout the campaign that you want to communicate, let me know, and we will work to find ways to give other candidates who have a credible campaign platform that aren't just in it for publicity. We will. You have
at least two candidates participating in your debate tomorrow who are in it for publicity. So this is a fact. And I even raised with one of them, I said, hey, if you're wanting to run for federal government, which is the intention, then just do that. Don't take up space where you're actually hindering people's rights and abilities. And I mean, they're a great speaker and whatnot, but their intention is for a federal election. And so you have to know that the people are putting their names in for other purposes other than serving in this municipal level of government. My role is to make sure that we all have the ability to live and thrive. And that is what my platform is about. And it's about bringing the city together and becoming the world-class city that we need to be. And the reality that I wanted to just add, Mackay, because I know you're calling from afar and I appreciate your time and I want to be mindful of your time. Is that the fact of the matter is that I'm also a person with a disability. So I check at least 3 of the, quote, boxes off, if you will, when it comes to representation. And specific to representation and disability, oftentimes people with disabilities are excluded from the conversation. We were going to bring a legal action challenging Premier Ford's Bill 5, what would I call it? Bill 5, period. And basically, things move very quickly where lawyers were not quick enough to respond. And we still have it on the table as how we might still approach it. But the fact of the matter that disability or accessibility was not included, whereas the Municipal Election Acts in Section 12.1 specifically says you have to communicate with the disability community when making rules for the election. That was done prior to the election. And that would have been a strong point to bring up, but it wasn't brought up. And I even asked some of the people, because I know them directly, I know Rocco and a few of the others, to raise these issues and said, hey, you guys didn't include this, which is where I was going to raise it. But the point is that there is a hindrance in campaigning because of people with disabilities, in particular mobility issues, which I have, in climbing stairs and knocking on doors. So this is the opportunity to share with the world of Toronto, as people criticize us for thinking we're the center of the world. Well, we are. We are.
Yeah. And this, for these intents and purposes, we are, certainly, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the idea that I need to be able to capitalize on the opportunities that show me in comparison to who we have as the mayor now. John Tory, I can tell you right now, is afraid of debating me. He was afraid in 2014 and is afraid now because he knows that I'm going to speak the plain truths that the public is speaking and actually want to hear. And so he does feel challenged by me, and I can understand him saying, no, I don't want Dion to come. But the point is, I want the world to see someone in contrast to him, that's actually speaking about the solutions that are required for our city. So that's why I am speaking with you. I think that's why Rishma also believed in what I was saying in order to connect with you and to speak with you on my behalf. And I think also that's why you actually took the time to call me, which again, I'm most appreciative of. The thing is, if we're going to ever change anything, we just have to do it, Mackay. We can't keep saying, oh, we'll talk about it later and we'll do it. No, it's today. Today is the change. And it's every minute that we have the opportunity to do better for society that we need to take the opportunity to do so. And so that's why I even have waited a little bit longer. And I'm so thankful you called me before 2:30. My friend is 96 years old. She turned 96 yesterday. She, for the first time ever, participated in the elections in the sense of actually attending debate. She came with me on a few occasions to attend debates. She found it fascinating, and she really believes in my candidacy because of the work that I do with the public, and that she sees the work that I do. But she's one of the seniors, and all the seniors ask me the very same question. Why aren't we seeing you on the news? Why aren't we seeing you on the TV? Why are they only showing John Tory and the white woman? That's what they usually say. This woman is black. And so I'm going to actually meet with her now. I'm going to tell her I spoke with one of the, you're an executive producer there?
News director is my title.
Sorry, you're the news director there.
That's fine.
And so I'm going to say that I spoke with the news director, and this is what he had to say. So I want to know what you have to say with regards to tomorrow. Can I get the seniors to be tuned in tomorrow to say, hey, there's Dion. There she is speaking the things that we want to have addressed, and so that they can all be prepared to watch it?
I think we agreed from an internal standpoint on a system to decide how our debate was to be formatted. It was decided sort of by committee, and unilaterally. I cannot and will not be able to change the rules at this point because we made them clear for ourselves. We communicated that when we announced the debate, but I think that and this might sound crass, but in politics, name recognition, as you can appreciate, is of great importance, rightly or wrongly. It just is a fact that voters, if they know a name, they are more likely to listen to that person and perhaps vote for them. And I think that
my name is more recognized than Jennifer Keesmaat. I even tweeted about that, saying, "Where does Jennifer?" Most people don't know who she is. And they only know because the media has promoted her. That's the only reason why people now know her.
I've been producing television for a long time, and before Jennifer Keesmaat held public office, which she did for 4 or 5 years at the City of Toronto, she was a commentator.
6 years.
She would write op-eds in newspapers and come on TV quite a bit to talk about different urban planning issues.
But Mackay, that's because you know that, right? You're in tune that way. But in general, the public doesn't know her and only know of her because the media has promoted her. That's the only reason. I can tell you that as a fact.
Well, it's a bit of chicken and the egg, I think, because when a person has a public profile, yes, it's the media then gloms onto them because that is a person of note, and they're ideas sometimes come with more weight because they are making, appearances on television and on radio and various platforms, and then that snowballs into more name recognition.
Yeah. So
what I'm saying
so again,
I think that your voice is lacking in public debate in areas
that's on purpose.
This election.
That's on purpose.
Right. So
that's on purpose.
I wish you had reached out to me a year ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago or
Mackay, we contacted you guys in 2014 about what you were doing, and maybe you weren't involved, but I contacted Global News with regards to what they were doing in the exclusionary process when they had 5 mayoral candidates, by the way, in their debate, and questioned them on that. I did not get a response. So you're the first person responding to me, and you guys have seen my name. You've seen my name as recent as September when I was assaulted at police headquarters fighting for people's rights. So again, my profile is higher than Jennifer Keesmaat and higher than the other 2 candidates that you have on for tomorrow. Again, the only reason why people are promoted is because the media does that. That's exactly the role of the media, to amplify information and news. And so the more the media does that, the more those people get heard and the more other people are excluded. But I can tell you, when I show up to places, and if I were to, which I don't necessarily do, highlight the certain things that people would know me from, everybody recognizes me. The point is, that is not my role. My role is to amplify the public's voice, the public's position, to ensure that we have the ability to live and thrive. This is not about photo ops. We keep allowing people who are prone to photo ops leading what? Leading the city when they have no ideas or solutions? This is why we're in the problems that we're in today. Basic things that should be understood and known to do are not done. And why? Because people are more interested in the power position than the people position. And I want that narrative to be changed, because right now Premier Doug Ford is promoting the issue of I'm of the people. Well, whose people is he of? And so when I identify to you that you're in tune because you're reading news, but I can tell you there's a majority of the population who don't know these people and do rely on media to share the information because they trust you. So you're in that position of trust. And as a person in the position of trust, and in particular being the director, you have an obligation to, I can't tell you what to do, but you have, in my opinion, you have an obligation to rightly inform the public and not just pander to what the establishment wants out there or what the status quo keeps putting forward. And quite frankly, as I've tweeted, it's mediocrity that they keep putting forward. And I can tell you, if you watch this Arts Vote debate, it probably will come up again. I was not impressed with neither John Tory or Jennifer Keesmaat. They kept going off topic, which is such an unnecessary way to answer a question. Answer the question. It was directly asked. What's the issue? So I am saying that you are saying, as the director, that you're not able to include or make the necessary changes required to have an effective, productive debate that's inclusive.
Well, but I think that our debate is going to be productive and inclusive, and I know we're going to disagree on that.
Yes.
But I also am saying that even though I'm the news director, I don't operate in a world or want to operate in a world where I can unilaterally tell my
I hear you, brother.
What to do.
I hear you.
And so,
I hear you. So what I'm asking then, if you would be willing to do, is to read a statement that I will prepare that you read prior to conducting your debate. Would you guys be willing to do that?
It's something, again, that I wouldn't, unless we were offering that to all the candidates. Like, we were clear that we were inviting a small group of candidates based on the criteria we set out. And it's not fair to me, or I don't think it's fair for me to extend you that opportunity and not others.
Well, the point is, it's not that you're extending it, I'm requesting it. So there's a difference there. If nobody else makes the effort to do certain things, I can't speak to those issues. I can only speak to the issues that I'm doing. You guys did not offer any of us the opportunity to be heard. So the point is, I'm saying because of that, I'm asking for something to be heard by being read, perhaps by Farah, I don't know. Whoever you choose to have read, or John Moore, whoever you have to read it, I would like my statement to be put forward so that the public is fully aware of the information and that you guys actually read it.
What we will, that opportunity I will offer you in the form of coverage on, at least on our website, not in conjunction with the debate, because again, we laid out the rules well in advance. we as an organization all agreed to them, and I'm not changing those rules at this point. And those rules involve the format, and the format does not include statements from other candidates. So I will.
Where would you put it on your website?
We would have an article, and all of our articles online are as accessible as any other article, and that they get easily tagged with posts or with hashtags like politics in Toronto and whatnot. And then frankly, it's up to the online audience to
find it,
gravitate towards it, and that builds there. Find it, yeah. Now, but I think that will, yes, it's not the same type of exposure as the debate, but it is something I think that will be of use to your campaign. And as I said, depending on how this goes on October 22nd, if you find yourself looking for opportunities to have a platform and share your views with a larger audience, please, I'd like to have a conversation with you about finding ways for you to be included in some of our radio talk shows, on some of our panel discussions, in some of our op-ed opportunities, because I think that you do bring up some great points. And unfortunately, my position is not going to change regarding this one issue, but I think that I'm committed to finding a way to help you share some of your views, which are well thought out and not off base.
Well, I appreciate your commitment, and I will accept that. But I thought I heard you say something that you would give me an opportunity to be heard prior to our election.
Yeah, prior to that, yes. We're in the works right now to find a way to offer other candidates a access to our audience that isn't through the debate and it is not related to the debate. It won't be on that day, but in the coming week or two, finding a way to do profiles on candidates who are not those four who are participating in the debate and who are people who some of our audience might not have had a chance to hear about or hear from.
Right, but how are you presenting the candidates to more? Are you trying to suggest that they're the lead candidates? Is that the language you're using?
No. What we're saying is that these are candidates who have, and let's be honest, tools. I know YouTube is a successful way of reaching people, but usually people have websites that they embed YouTube videos on.
No, but I use YouTube solely because it is inclusive. It allows closed captioning for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and it allows audio for people who are blind or low vision. I'm about inclusivity and about increasing accessibility, ensuring that people have the ability to live and thrive and move within the city and to be able to participate and engage. So that's exactly why I use YouTube, and I keep directing people back there. Not all websites are inclusive, as you're aware, and in fact, your website is not necessarily accessible to everyone. So I use that because it is.
Well, I think we used a number of metrics to look at who seemed to be investing in their campaign in a way that was showed them to be I'm trying to be careful with my language because I don't want to say that you're not committed to the pursuit, but I think that you can have a YouTube channel, which I agree is very accessible. You can also have a website. There are a number of things you can do. But Mackay,
you know that if you look into my history, you will see that I'm an advocate. I'm a strong advocate, and a lot of things that we have achieved is as a result of the advocacy work that I have done with community.
I'll tell you one thing I felt was lacking when we were looking.
Go ahead.
I don't see any material, and if there is one YouTube video that does this, but that presents a biography about your credentials and your skills and your background. That
my history is out there. My history is out there.
Where?
You Google my name and see what comes up. Did you Google my name?
But yes, I did. But that's not. Those are articles and references to you. What I'm looking for is how if you are going to say to a Toronto voter who's never heard your name before.
Yes.
It's difficult to find information that says I'm Dion. I want to become mayor of Toronto for these reasons. So that was one of the things that we were looking for.
I appreciate it because I really am open to hearing criticism. I literally thank you for saying that. I'm thinking my platform is there and that it's there saying that. But if you're telling me you're not...
Watch one video.
Sorry?
Yeah. What's the best video on your YouTube channel that highlights that? Is there one that's introductory to Dion Renée?
Yeah, so it's the one that I say is my platform, and I reposted it because the closed captioning didn't come out. And then I highlighted a conversation that I had more recently with the Arts Vote people, because I demonstrated that, hey, there is a misrepresentation out there that these are, quote, lead candidates, or how people come about making these decisions about debates. I'm wanting the public to always be informed. So there's different snippets as to how they can get informed in various areas. I'm not going to repeat the same things over and over again, because you just send a link, here, look this up. So there are different subject matters. I highlight even some of the specific points that people love hearing about. My joint property ownership, how we can address accessible housing. I don't call it affordable because that's a misnomer. I call it accessible housing, where people could actually have a place to live in the city, and some people who would be able to co-own with the city. We should put in a joint property ownership plan. That's highlighted. So the key things that jump out that people want to hear more about, because I have been doing my research and inquiring and talking with community, and when they wanted to hear more of those specific areas, I highlighted them, because the other things are plain. They're very straightforward. Invest in communities. Everybody understands what that means. But when you talk about how do we invest in communities, about creating spaces for people, that's where I highlight the things that there may appear to be not enough information on, or what people ask me about. So the three things on my Marrow platform that people are excited about are the housing plans.
Our present there.
Yes.
Okay, listen, I will. I'm going to send, when I'm back in Toronto tomorrow, I'm going to send you my direct contact information. This is my cell phone number that I called you on in case you need it. But I will. You can reach out to me. Again, the position on the debate is not changing, but I am committed to helping other candidates reach our audience throughout the campaign, yourself included. And beyond that, I think that you bring up some good points, and I'd be happy to talk about options to help you, share your views as part of our content production. So I
appreciate that, Mackay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to be mindful. I want to be mindful of your time.
Thank you.
The thing that you indicated. Actually, my brain stopped. But that's another thing. I have a head injury, so sometimes I have word find issues. Sorry?
I feel the same way, and I luckily haven't had a head injury, but the same thing happens.
Yeah.
I've got to let you go, but I appreciate you talking to me, and I congratulate you on running, because I know it's not an easy thing to do, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.